It's the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. And some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend with Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everyone doing this beautiful Friday? It is Friday morning. Hello. Hope you guys are fantastic. I'm good. Friday the 13th, no less, an extra special Friday. Yay. I know some of you are superstitious. It's going to be fine. Don't stress about it. We're here for you. If you believe it, what was the old saying? If you step in a crack, you're going to break somebody's back. Don't worry, we got you. Yes, I know. I'm good. I'm great. I love Friday the 13th because it's just another beautiful Friday. So everyone's good? Woke up alive and feeling pretty good, and you're shaking it off this morning. We have the minister coming on of education and training. He's going to be joining us shortly, right around 8 o'clock. And we've got lots of full agenda to talk to him about. Oh, let me start the Instagram feed. There we go. So don't forget now, folks. You can, let me see. Okay, right. Okay, let me just see here now. Dun, dun, dun. Right, let me just grab the links and send those in WhatsApp. Just a reminder, I'm actually going to post it on Instagram and Facebook this morning to let people know that for now, I don't know how long we're going to be on the backup channel. We never know. We have appealed it because I think actually YouTube has gotten this one wrong, but we don't know. So until we know, we'll just use the backup channel for now. So please, if you can, go ahead and use that. All right, so the links have gone out. And then, like I said, I'm going to just, because I know some of you are struggling to actually find the YouTube channel, I will just put a little notation on the social channels so that you can find it there as well. How does that sound? Everybody happy with that? Okay, I'm doing that right now as we speak, a little bit of multitasking. So bear with me and we're going to get it done. So lots going on in the world today. Yesterday in the US, apparently there was a Seoul man who attempted to, I guess they considered him an active shooter at a synagogue. Someone sent it to me last night. They're like, oh, you didn't put this up. Now, let me be very, very clear, especially when it comes to the United States of America. I know we do share a lot of their news right now because what they're doing impacts a lot of the world. However, every single time there's an attack in the States, and I can tell you this because people have sent me shootings where people have died. Yesterday, nobody was injured. Nobody died. We do not, and I want to stress this because I think some of you are missing the point. We do not put all of those up because that is all that we would cover. The degree of violence in the US, especially when it comes to shooting situations, is quite extraordinary and normal all at the same time. So we can't put that up every single day. It's the same thing with Jamaica. You know, we don't put up every single murder incident in Jamaica because some days there are 4 or 5 a day. And that's not the primary source. So we do have to make some editorial and news decisions. And in fact, that one yesterday got so little coverage. I guess if you're interested in the particular topic, you might have seen it, but I had to search for it in order to find it. And I think even in the States, it wasn't that big of a deal because number one, nobody was hurt. And, that's probably the primary reason. And, it's like these guys are vying for who can do the most and get the most news attention. So unfortunately for him, whoever this guy was, if he didn't make it to, actually hurt anyone, he's not newsworthy. So he died for pretty much no reason. I mean, it's just ridiculous when you think about it. And it's horrible that anyone is engaging in any sort of attacks. We don't know who it was or for what reason, so I can't really speculate on any of that. The authorities are actively investigating. So, that's not as much of a news story as you think. Of course, there are people who want to make this about it being a synagogue. We don't know that. Until we know that, we don't know that. You understand what I'm saying? So I can't jump to any conclusions in terms of a motive. He might have been somebody who just didn't like his lunch because that's what happens in the US of A. Everybody gets upset about a situation. They automatically turn to violence. And because the weapon laws in that country are so incredibly slack, gun violence is the norm, right? So I do want people to understand, because I think sometimes people do get up in their feelings about it. And it has nothing really to do with, oops, I'm not on radio. Hold on, honey child. Let me try it again. Oh, must have disconnected. Okay. So good morning, Radioland. Okay, I'm trying again. Thank you so much for letting me know. Let's see. Yeah, so all right, I think we should be back on. But yeah, so we're not in a position to cover every single thing. And even the things that we cover, those of you who are like, oh, you have TT, what are y'all calling it? TDS or whatever, where you think people have Trump derangement syndrome, but it's something else that y'all have. That's not it. Those are the stories that are trending. So we put up the shoe story. It's not because that's an obscure story that no one else heard of. That was literally trending all over the news feeds yesterday. And we, tend to pick up on trending stories about the president. As I said, well over a month ago, it's hard for this president to not be trending. I mean, I don't know how other media who have to write like full-length stories, a lot of times we're just resharing a post. or we literally just copy and share the picture from other people publishing the stories. These are the guys, I try to source them whenever I can. Like, okay, this is from NPR, this is from Fox News. We make sure we're pulling in what Fox News is covering, because they're covering a lot too. It's like in the US right now, I would say that 80% of the stories, and I've never seen anything like this in terms of any president that I can recall during my lifetime, and I lived in the States. The constant news stories every single day, almost every minute of the day, in relation to this man is shocking. The volume is shocking. The amount of stuff that he's constantly saying and constantly doing that media all over the world is having to cover. Like you saw his statement about the oil prices. He says high oil prices benefits the US because they sell oil. So those of you who are complaining about it, stop complaining about your president. He just told you he sees high oil prices as a good thing now. That's not what he said in the past when other presidents, he claimed, made the prices go up. But under him, he's flipped the narrative. And now it's, nope, that's good. Good for us. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit, I don't want to misuse any mental health terms for sake of insulting anyone, but it's manic the way that this president acts. I mean, some nights he's up in the middle of the night, constantly posting, constantly posting. Like one night he posted almost every hour on the hour. Yeah. So what a mess. Okay. So we've got our minister coming up. Praise the Lord. Our ministers are just normal people out here working. Woo. Stress. All right. Ahead of the minister coming, I do want to share a video that we have, which is, let me just pull it up here, which is regarding the UCCI expansion presentation, which he will be touching on this morning as well. So permit me 1 minute to actually get this link up so that, like I said, I think people are struggling to find us. So I want to make sure you guys can find us this morning. So I'm just going to reshare all of the links. So we'll do Instagram, TikTok, connection expiring soon. Let's refresh that. And we even have LinkedIn. I don't know if we're going to continue the LinkedIn channel. I'll be honest with you, because I think that most of you, simply don't even pay attention to LinkedIn for that purpose. You're using LinkedIn, I guess, just to look up professionals, and you're not really into it for the news. So I'm thinking to myself that it probably doesn't make any sense. We manage our time as effectively as we can. And then when certain things, simply change profile selection. Yes. When certain things simply do not align, and we're putting resources, which is time and energy, into it, and no one's there. Okay. You kind of have to decide what to drop and what to keep. And that's normal. By the way, after the minister has left, we need to talk about the shakeup in media regionally. RJR, that's what they are, RJR. Ooh, honey child, they're going through some changes. But anyway, sit back, folks, and watch this video of the $9 million injection into capital injection for the University College of the Cayman Islands. I think this is a very welcome development.
Minister for Finance and Economic Development, Education and Training, Honorable Rolston Anglin, Chief Officer for the Ministry of Education and Training, Mr. Tonya Cacho, Chairman of the UCCI Board of Governors, Mr. Gilbert McLean, Acting President of UCCI, Ms. Natalie Cover, Vice President and Provost, Dr. Livingston Smith, Minister colleagues, members of the media, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today at this auspicious event. I will now invite Chief Officer Cacho to give us some welcome remarks.
Thank you. With protocol having been established, good morning. On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Training, I would like to warmly welcome you and thank you for joining us this morning as we mark an important step in the continued development of the University College of the Cayman Islands, UCCI. For 5 decades, UCCI has played a central role in expanding access to tertiary education in our islands. It has supported generations of Caymanian students as they pursue academic, technical, and professional pathways, and its influence can be seen across many areas of our community. As the Cayman Islands continues to grow and evolve, institutions like UCCI become even more important. They help ensure that our people have the skills, knowledge, and opportunities needed to contribute to the continued development of our country. Today's gathering reflects the strong partnership between the Ministry of Education and Training and UCCI. We commend the efforts of UCCI's leadership and Board of Governors, as well as the dedication of the faculty and staff who work assiduously each day to support the success of their students. It is now my pleasure to invite the Honorable Rolston Anglin, Minister of Finance and Economic Development and Education and Training, to deliver his remarks.
Thank you very much, Chief Officer Cacho. And for those who would have been neatly tucked into bed, having a wonderful night's sleep at approximately 1:45 this morning, that is when Parliament ended.
Wow.
Hence the reason why we had to shift this back a little later, and the fact that many of my colleagues are not here. We decided to push caucus back until noon, so I suspect most people won't be coming into town until around that time. But I know we needed to do this before we got started, and I wanted to ensure that I just wanted to ensure that we got this done and completed. But I want to thank the Chief Officer, Deputy Chief Officer McCoy, Mrs. Thompson from the Ministry, Stacey Ann, Nidra. I'm just going to I'm giving her a new name. It's Nidra. For putting this together and having us here, just as a ceremonial gesture. Last year, when we were coming toward the end of the financial year, and we saw and knew that we would not be completing the Cayman Brac High School, the ministry and the government, we looked across all ministries and said, are there any strategically important initiatives or projects that we ought to be funding? And one of them was, when I got into office, I had been briefed that UCCI had a master plan for expansion. Now it's from 2024, so of course that's something that we're going to have to now look at in terms of the details of what that plan looks like. But I saw it as a key strategic investment. We all know how important tertiary education and skills is to our economy. We need to ensure that UCCI maintains its position and grows its position as a key partner in ensuring we're upskilling and having future-ready workers, making sure that we have those programming to ensure that our workers are nimble, inquisitive, creative, and can pivot as the economy pivots very quickly. That's a key to economic development. And so for me, sitting where I sit, with responsibility for education and economic development, I understand how closely aligned those are when we have institutions like UCCI that cut across both. Because the fact is, we're not just about education. That could be the case if you want to be a researcher or you're a person that is doing something purely for you as a person. But the vast majority of our learners are doing it because they want a better job. They want better pay. They want a promotion. They want to put themselves in the best possible position to succeed. And so from that standpoint, I see this as a key initiative in terms of economic development for our country. And so this I saw as a small way in which to kick off this initiative. And so I'm looking forward to meeting with the Board of Governors and senior leadership at UCCI to ensure that the vision for the future is one that is closely aligned to not only to the Ministry of Education, but also the Ministry of Economic Development, because we've not paid a lot of attention to that aspect. And in fact, next week, I'm going to be rolling out a Section 54(6) committee that's now been approved by caucus that is going to develop a 20-year economic development strategy for the Cayman Islands. This is part of the investment to deliver on some of the tentacles that's going to come out of that 20-year economic development strategy, because we need to now take that step back and try to ensure that we're mapping out where we want the Cayman Islands to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that 20-year strategy is going to be broken down into 4 5-year short, medium-term strategies that then end up as part of the 20-year strategy. And so this is going to be one of the first in those 5-year plans, which is expansion of UCCI's plant, expansion and more focus of programming to align the programming to the needs of the economy. So I just want to thank the acting president, Ms. Cover, our board chair, all the board of governors, Dr. Smith and the faculty at UCCI, because you're key partners in us being able to deliver, and we must deliver with impact. And so over the next couple of weeks, we certainly are going to be having some initial meetings to ensure that we develop a plan for the use of this $9 million that is going to ensure it has its greatest impact.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, I'd ask you to come back to the stage. I would also like to invite Chief Officer Catchell, Mr. McLean, Ms. Cover, to come forward for the presentation of the check. University's response.
Protocol having been established, it's my privilege and honor to make a few remarks and to thank the Honorable Minister for what he has done today. The University College of the Cayman Islands, UCCI, began in 1975 as the first government-sponsored tertiary institution offering part-time education. It evolved from an amalgamation of the trade, hotel, and marine schools in 1985. In 2004, the Legislative Assembly passed an act officially renaming the Community College of the Cayman Islands to the University College of the Cayman Islands. Last year, UCCI celebrated its 50th anniversary. Over the past 50 years, UCCI has evolved into a major educational pillar, educating thousands of both local and overseas students, focusing on academic, technical, and workforce readiness training. However, the campus's physical facilities have remained largely unchanged over the past 50 years. The demand for space has continually increased, and gallant efforts have been ongoing to accommodate students and staff. Still, the space has long remained inadequate to properly meet the institution's needs. Successive governments have remained committed to funding the major components of operational costs, including salaries and benefits for faculty and staff, and numerous scholarships over time. The one item, for some reason, that has remained unaddressed is the need to build modern, fit-for-purpose physical facilities. Today is a historic and momentous occasion for UCCI, when, for the first time in 50 years, an allocation of funds specifically for the expansion of the college is being made. The news today that you, Honorable Minister Rolston Anglin, have taken such outstanding action to provide $9 million for this purpose is without doubt welcome by all faculty and staff, and I can assure you, the Board of Governors. This allocation will, for the first time, allow UCCI to immediately move forward and take steps to purchase much-needed land to build on, engage architectural drawings, and commence the required clearing of land and fund the beginning phase of construction. With new buildings properly designed, it will enhance the ability to comfortably accommodate students, create a better teaching environment, and give UCCI the opportunity to offer new and expanded programs not currently available. Today will mark a new step in UCCI's journey as it moves forward with confidence that its needs are being addressed. I trust that as UCCI develops and expands, it will continue to be a beacon of education in the Cayman Islands and become one for the Caribbean and the world. On behalf of the board, I once again express my thanks to you, Minister Honorable Rolston Anglin, and the government for its consideration so spectacularly and meaningfully expressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very, very well said. As we close, today is more than just about the handover of funds. It is about belief. Belief in UCCI, belief in our students, and belief in the future of the Cayman Islands. This $9 million investment is a strong statement that education matters, opportunity matters, and the development of our people is a national priority. The students who walk through UCCI's doors today, I was one, will help shape the Cayman Islands tomorrow, and I think I am. This is why this moment is so important. Thank you to everyone who made today possible, and thank you to UCCI for the important work you do. May this investment continue to open doors, inspire success, and make a lasting difference in generations to come. Thank you, and God bless.
All right, folks. Thank you so much. So we now turn our attention to our guest this morning. So joining us is the Honorable Rolston Anglin, who is the Minister for Education and Training, as well as, I should say, Minister for Finance and Economic Development. But this morning we will be focusing on education and training, and the man here now with us, the minister, is steering everything from early childhood reform, UCCI's $9 million expansion, to the future of the government's rapidly growing home health care program. So put your virtual hands together, folks, for a very, very warm welcome to the Honorable Rolston Anglin. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Sandra. I am very good. How are you? Good morning to Kiman, and good morning to all of your listeners, wherever they may be.
Yes, your mic is coming in a little bit hot this morning. So I don't know. I don't know if we got a new mic in the house or what's going on there, but I'm gonna try to adjust it by pulling you down on my board.
Okay.
But it seems a little hot. So let me just do that. Okay. Good morning. Yes, I know time is of the essence today because, of course, you are very, very busy and you've had a busy week in Parliament. So let's get right into it. We just saw this video this morning about UCCI, and we had a listener to the program who asked me a question about the BRAC school, if they heard that the BRAC school would not be completed. No, that's not.
Sandra, let's move on to things.
That's not what he said.
No one has ever said that. The new Lehman Scott High School is due to be completed later this year. Construction is well underway. The buildings are all roofed, completed, and so it's all about getting the work done so we can get students in there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to this amazing $9 million that has been allocated to University College of the Cayman Islands for them to build some purpose-built facilities. I think this is really quite something. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so Sandra, obviously one of the things that happens when you have an election year is that you inherit a budget, you inherit programs, and you inherit projects. BRAC High School is one of them. In the original 2023 to 2025 budget, because that's what everybody has to remember, is when this budget that ended December the 31st, 2025 was passed, that would have been passed in late 2023 to give the government authority to spend from the 1st of January 2024 all the way to 31st of December 2025, because we do 2-year budgets now. 2-year appropriation bills, I should say. And so one of the things that we were monitoring were across government, where were all of the projects? Where were they going to land? How close to completion were various projects? And so once we got the budget passed in late November and we got back from the Joint Ministerial Council meetings in London, I turned my attention to capital projects along with all of the other ministers. And so one of the things that was very obvious was that in late 2023, when this budget was originally passed, it was projected that the Lehman Scott High School was going to be completed by the 31st of December, 2025. It was projected that things like the submarine cable project would have been started and completed. And so that's the thing about a budget, right? When you prepare it and you're projecting it for 2 years, that's 2 years worth of planning. You don't know what's going to happen in those 2 years. And so there's points where you have to pivot. And so at the end of 2025, in December, just December gone, when I was looking around and working with the finance team, it became obvious to me that there were a number of important appropriations that were going to be underspent. One of which was submarine cable, the BRAC, the Lehman Scott High School project. Those are the 2 big ones that jump into my mind. There were some others. And so we took the decision that any project that a minister had that was already in train and could be brought to cabinet for passage, we could fund those. When I got briefed coming in, I had knowledge that UCCI in 2024 had developed a master plan. And so I took the decision to take the cabinet the proposal to do a first phase of that master plan. And that's where this $9 million came from. So we had savings. And so I thought a very good use of those savings was to kick this off. Sandra, when we're looking at financial management, I had to take all of these projects in the context of the 2026, 2027 budget, and then we made decisions around all of those projections, taking everything into consideration.
Okay. All right. So this is fantastic. And I think a lot of people are very, very pleased that UCCI is getting, capital injection, because their numbers, registration numbers, continue to increase year upon year. And so, if we want Caymanians to have opportunities at an important institution like the University College of the Cayman Islands, we have to put funding behind it, right? So this isn't something where we can just give it lip service and tell our students, yes, go to this facility, and then the classrooms are full. They're, when they have larger conferences and events, there's hardly space for that. So I think that this is a much welcome injection to the university. So I'm sure everyone.
Absolutely, Sandra. Well, what I would welcome, and perhaps that's what we need to do as well, is to contextualize this for Caymanians who've not been on that campus. That campus is very, very old. Sandra, I'm not going to state my age, 54. I graduated from high school at 16, 38 years ago. UCCI reminds me of what the then Cayman Islands High School looked like. In all seriousness, that's what it reminds me of, because it's a very, very old campus. It's no longer fit for purpose. And I think that is when you make the decision that you build new facility. When you've outgrown the usefulness and you then struggle and facilities start to get in the way of optimal teaching and learning. For example, I started the nursing school back in 2010. We know we need to modernize and get modern labs, etc. For those types of programs. This sort of funding will give that sort of possibility now. So the next step, Sandra, is I'm going to be meeting with the board and looking at what the master plan looks like, ensuring that our government has input and designs it the way that we think is going to be future looking. And then come to the public, and then we'll be looking to acquire an additional piece of land near the university as well, so that we can now embark upon this important journey. The other condition I made before we transferred the actual funds was that they would create a segregated bank account. So these funds have gone in to a segregated bank account that cannot be used for anything other than the capital expenditure. So these can be used for day-to-day expenses. They're not just put into the operating account, and then mysteriously when you go to use them, you've dipped in because you've needed something, or someone's come up with a new program, and then you say, the money is there, so let's fund it. So in terms of segregating those funds, that was critically important from a financial management tool. And so that was part of the conditions that I wrote to the board upon. And I told them that the monies wouldn't be transferred over from central government until that condition was met. So we waited until everything was in place until we made the announcement yesterday. And it's hugely exciting. I mean, if you listen to what the president has said, I mean, Mr. McLean is a longtime civil servant. He's a teacher, trained individual who went to Michael College. He's a former permanent secretary in government, or chief officer, as we call them now. He's a former minister in cabinet. So he's been around the public service and been around education for a long, long time. And when you hear him talk about how much this is needed, this comes from a place of him sitting as chairman of the board of the institution for a number of years now. So exciting times ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
And the other thing that I mentioned in my statement, Sandra, but it's worth repeating. UCCI is one of those institutions that really cuts at the cross section of both of my ministries, right? Because it is tertiary So it's the very end of the education journey, but it's also a key economic development tool because you need to upskill our people. We need to provide the opportunities for Caymanians to be the best version of themselves, and that's through education and training. And so when you think about this for the government isn't just about an education initiative. This is also a key economic development initiative for the country. And so we see it, we see the future of UCCI as bright. We need to be more streamlined. I must tell you, we need to be more strategic. One of the things that I am going to be working with the board very closely on is once we've completed the work around the national priority areas of study, we're going to do that for tertiary and we're going to do that for tech voc. And so once we've done that, that is then going to inform what programming looks like at UCCI, because we need to ensure that the programming that UCCI has is preparing our people for the labor market that we have today and in the future.
Okay. All right. Aliano has a question, which again, this is, I think this has already been answered, quite frankly, in relation
Just get
to.
my coffee, Sandra.
Okay.
You don't have to have my coffee.
No problem. Which is upscaling the network systems to provide easy access to more personal courses. Again, this specific, let me be very, very clear, Aliano, this specific $9 million injection is for expansion purposes only. So what exactly, what delivery outcomes, Minister, are you looking forward to from this $9 million? Land acquisition, buildings, labs, you know, what do you think we can get for $9 million?
Well, certainly the land acquisition and at least phase one. What phase one will include will be down to a governance and leadership decision. So once we look at the entire project, expansion project, we then need to rank everything and then come up with the priorities. And that's what I'm saying we're going to be coming back to the public with, so that we're very clear, transparent. Students will know what's expected. The public knows what's expected. Sandra, you know my view on this, and this has always been, every time I've been minister, people have said to me, why are you going on these talk shows almost every week? I find it important to communicate with the public. So on that specific question that the person has asked, I have made a note, and so I will certainly find out what's happening on campus in terms of technology. To the best of my knowledge, we don't have any major issues like that, and we have the BRAC campus that is a remote campus. But I'll ask the question in specific in terms of network. I don't know if they meant infrastructure network or they meant network as in upscaling the network or network systems. It does say systems. So I will ask that question, Sandra, and get an answer for you on that. The other thing that is at the back of my mind is whether or not there may be an opportunity with this 9 million to start out with a small accommodation wing for BRAC students. Sandra, let me be very, very clear before someone then calls in or says in a month's time, I said this is what we were going to do. I'm just throwing out the needs that UCCI and Cayman has, okay? We have 3 Cayman Islands. One of the things that have been a real source of contention has been BRAC students who want to be in Grand Cayman to get the full UCCI experience, not just the Polylink experience, because that makes it very difficult to access the broadest range of classes for a lot of individuals under BRAC. So what's happening right now, and what's happened for well, up until now, is that BRAC students have to find accommodation when they come here, and it's usually with a Caymanian relative. And sometimes those experiences aren't the most convenient. So it's not like every student has a sibling or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent or whatever there is in terms of a close relative who just has a rated space to be able to welcome them in and house them for 2 years in Grand Cayman. And so all of those things have to be put in the mix in terms of what we see as the first priorities as it relates to the expansion.
Mm,
But everything is on the table. That's really what the message that I want to give is that
yes.
we're going to be thoughtful, and we're going to be strategic, and we're going to ensure that we get the best value for money in terms of the spend on this month on this $9 million.
Mhm. All right. We do have a caller patiently waiting on the line. Good morning, caller. Question, hopefully on topic this morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Mr. Anglin.
Good morning.
I got my education in the United States, and I went to some good schools, and more importantly, I had good teachers.
Mhm.
And my former girlfriend was the school teacher. My ex-wife works for the teachers union, so they were kind of telling me a little bit how things work there.
Mhm.
And some of it worked and some of it didn't work. But what I've seen is that it is crucial. You got crucial, you got important, and then you got would be nice. For me, it's crucial. The teachers, more selections, not more letters after their last name, and titles and all this, but quality teachers.
Mhm.
Like my aerodynamics teacher, he put man on the moon. My calculus teacher, there's a math formula named after him. It's called the Laplace transform.
Mhm.
These are good. They know their stuff and they know how to teach it. So
Okay.
that was just my comment.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So of course, the quality of teachers across the board, right up to UCCI, incredibly important to education outcomes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Quality teaching and learning starts with professionals who are trained, can transmit that knowledge on to students in an effective, differentiated way. But of course, we are going to continue to talk about the input, which is the student, and how we drive that improvement. Sandra, is really, I've been harping on this now for 16 years, early childhood care and education. If we don't get it right from the very beginning, you just don't miraculously have it right at the end. And so during this meeting of Parliament, I delivered an update on early childhood care and education because I thought it was very, very important for me to ensure that the Parliament and the country understood that I was getting back to basics. The important work that was started 16 years ago, sadly from where I sit, has not built upon and created the momentum that it could have had. Reintroducing reception, which I did in the 2009-13 term, was a game changer, and it set that platform. It set the foundation. And so my first duty was to listen, find out what's happening on the ground. And one of the things that's happening on the ground is that we still have a number of our private preschool settings that is not up to snuff. We even have some that are rated as satisfactory, but we need to do better. That is mission 1 for me, mission 2 for me, and mission 3 for me. Because if we don't achieve quality in early childhood care and education, we can throw all of the interventions we want. Yes, we'll get value added for a percentage of students, but they're just going to set a significant percentage of the student population up for failure. And so I got the team to give me a complete update on what are the immediate things that I could do. And during the budget session, I announced that we were doubling the ECAP, or Early Childhood Assistance Program funding. I found it in 2025 budget at $910,000, Sandra. $910,000. Significant spend, almost $1 million. But this, for the 2026 and 2027 budget, each year, 2.1 million. So we've more than doubled it from what I've found it. Why did I do that? One of the things that got reported to me in my incoming brief as minister this time around was that there were a number of families that just wasn't able to get funding.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a number of families that couldn't even qualify for funding. So let me break that down. So we had a number of families that, due to budgetary constraints and otherwise, should have gotten full funding because that's what they needed. That's what their circumstances dictated. But they were only getting 75% funding. You see, 75% funding sounds good to me and you, Sandra. It doesn't sound so good to the person who can't afford to pay that additional $300 or $400 a month. And so
Right.
we're going to fill that gap for those in greatest need. The other area that was very interesting for me to find out about was we had set a ceiling, an income ceiling. And so we said, as policy, anyone who made above $5,500 couldn't qualify. What that was doing was it was taking people who were making what sounds like to a lot of other people good money, but it wasn't looking at their family budget because all of this is being tested, right? And so what we're going to do is we are going to consider those who are making above that amount. And we're going to look at what their actual need is, because we had families who came to the ministry previously and said, look, this is how much I'm making, yes, but here you go. Here's my loan agreement. Here's what CUC is. Here's what health insurance is. Here's what property insurance is. And it was very, very clear they were in need. But due to the policy, they could not be assisted because they were eliminated. And so we are going to be capturing around 15 families that we have identified are in that trap. Yes, they make more than the amount that we say is the cap, the ceiling, but given what their circumstances are, and this isn't about reckless spending, Sandra, let me make sure I'm clear about this to the public. We have very strict criteria around what you can submit as allowable expenses. So this isn't doing your nails. This isn't getting new hair. This isn't going to the spa. This isn't going on vacation. This is what's your income, what's your mortgage payments, what's CUC, what's health insurance, what's property insurance, necessities, Sandra, necessities in today's world. And so we look at those necessities, and if you show us your income or show the team your income, and we see your necessary expenses being extremely tight and clearly demonstrating that, yes, you have a child who's 3 to 4 years old. And sometimes in these families, you have more than one, right? So a lot of times what was happening, Sandra, it was a couple who'd gotten a home, have 2 to 3 kids. By the time you combine their income, they were disqualified. But when you looked at their family circumstance, you saw that there was a need. And therefore, some families were making difficult decisions of sending one child to preschool, keeping another one out, and staying at home with a helper and that sort of thing. And that's where the challenge winds up, right? You know, picture a family with one child in primary school, one child between 3 and 4, and a 2-year-old. And this is a situation that happens, believe it or not, all too often. That 3 to 4-year-old, because you need someone to stay at home to take care of the 2-year-old, now the family looks on and says, but we can't afford to send the 3 to 4-year-old to get that start that they need at an earlier sense. So it's that gap. It's not a big number out there, but one child in that situation, one family in that situation, for me, is one too many. And so we're also going to address that need with these additional budget allocation.
All right, folks, some of you are just joining us, so let me be very, very clear. The minister is positioning early childhood care and education, that's ECCE, when you hear him using these acronyms. And the early intervention program, that's the EIP, as the foundation of the education system in the Cayman Islands, with a strong evidence-based narrative about how important the first 5 years are to a person's future development. Good morning, caller. Question about the early intervention program or the ECAP?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, my minister.
Good
Raleigh,
morning.
I forget about the Anglin.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I'm so proud of you thinking about our children and grandchildren. And I'm putting in my application now, my appointment now. Whenever my 2 feet touch the Cayman Island, very soon, make an appointment. I'm coming to your door. I need to speak to you in person. So I'm putting it in from now, my appointment, and I'm serious about that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to send it to 2 address, but I'm going to leave that out for now.
Okay.
Because
Thank you so
although
much.
you're busy, you have your hand full.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So, Minister, you have placed, as we well know, and this is something as a continuation from your previous term in office, where you talked about this emphasis on the first 5 years being so incredibly critical. What is the single biggest weakness that you've identified in Cayman's early childhood system that this new push is trying to fix?
So it's a two-pronged answer, but they dovetail together.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of coordination between those who see our children first. Hospital, healthcare. Children are born in hospitals. And so we need to be very much hemmed in and tapped in with the Ministry of Health in this initiative. Our early intervention program is staffed by hardworking, dedicated professionals. I know that there's a lot of complaints in the community, but the fact is you have a team that is simply under-resourced. For what they have, they are delivering. And so priority number 1 is reorganizing and strengthening that team to get them the resources in terms of human capital to be able to deliver on the growing needs. Let me tag with that now. Home. Parents, we all need to put our hands up if we see any form of developmental delay with a child. If you see something, I'm going to use an old phrase of Sandra. It comes back in the start of it. You know, there was this old thing when the U.S. and other countries were trying to get communities to participate in bringing down crime. They would say, if you see something, say something. I'm going to use the exact same phrase, Sandra. And I beg parents, grandparents, caregivers, if you see something, report it. If you think something is slightly off, report it. When I get to primary schools, and so we've started our school visits, as I announced in the last show, Sandra. And the theme is now continuing to every school. In reception, they keep telling me, we're getting children who are undiagnosed. Sandra, when we get children at 4 years old, see, a lot of people out there think, oh, 4 is still small. Well, let me tell you what the research has shown, Sandra. The research. This isn't opinion. The research has shown, and let us just think about it ourselves. Because if you think about it, the research makes sense. A child is born. If you take that child and just put it on the ground and leave it, what's going to happen to that child, Sandra?
Well, I mean,
the child is going to pass away. If you just leave it, do nothing, don't feed it, don't give it water, don't feed or anything, don't clothe it, it's going to pass away. When you are born, you are absolutely at the mercy of the world. Absolutely at the mercy of the world. By the time you're around 9 to 12 months, you're walking. Now, all of a sudden, you're not just this little baby that's come out of the womb. You're now walking. You're jabbering. You're making for sounds. You're looking when you hear voices, when you hear sounds, you're reacting to them. Sandra, that's in the first 9 months. Think about how big a change that is. You go from, if someone set you down just after coming out of the birth, you have no way of doing anything for yourself, to within 9 to 12 short months. You set you down, you're going to walk off. You could walk right off. That's what you've learned to walk. By the time you're 2 years old, Sandra, lots of kids are forming letters and sounds and looking and recognizing colors and actually having interaction with their parents and other adults. That's in 24 months. You go from total helplessness to starting some of the earliest learning and cognitive behavior in 24 months. So let's now jump ahead. What's the difference between when you're 10 years old and 12 years old? Same 24 months. You certainly don't make those sort of leaps and bounds. You don't make those sort of leaps and bounds. Now, that's just an analogous story. The fact is, as you've said, there's been decades of research that underpin this. And this is why the strongest education systems in the world all invested in early years, and now they're reaping the fruit. Finland. People will hear me talk about my visit to Finland in 2010. Finland accepted as one of the highest performing education systems in the world. I'll never forget during that visit what the Ministry and Department of Education in Finland told me. This was a 30-year journey. 3-0. It was a 30-year journey, and it started with the early years. And if we don't, so let's go back to your question, Sandra. Single biggest thing, properly resourcing EIP, deep coordination with healthcare and other professionals, and having professionals and parents, once there is a suspected cognitive or developmental delay, reporting it so we can get our children assessed early and the interventions start immediately. The interventions can't start at reception. By then, the child is expected to grasp a curriculum and start their education journey. If you are fixing baseline issues with a child, which is forming letters, recognizing letters, that is the basic literacy skills that you need to access all of your education, you are already so far behind that the odds of catching up, and we have children in our system that are in this position, and that's just not good enough. And so that's the piece of it that we have to fix, but it's going to take all of us doing it together. A reception teacher sitting right now at Marie Martin Primary School can't magically know what's happening at a home in Georgetown with a 1-year-old. But the parent knows. The parent knows, the pediatrician knows, somebody knows. And therefore, if you see something and say, this is not about shame. This is about survival. This is about the best life you can give your child. And listen, it's nothing wrong with suspecting something wrong and getting it checked, and there's nothing. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah,
Right? It's much, much better to be safe than sorry.
absolutely. And I think you've answered this person's question, but their question was, so what will be done for children that are struggling in those first years of school? Any additional tutoring after school, letting them repeat, etc.? How do children fall through the cracks with an undiagnosed issue before attending primary school? Do we need more structure in the public health to monitor children that are born and not being brought in to get their appropriate checks? So, I mean, this definitely crosses over into other ministerial areas as well that don't directly fall under you. But that's a really good question, because as you rightfully said, there are people who might notice something, churches and other places that the child, even at a very, very young age, is being taken and being exposed to. But the parents and those in the household normally are the ones who will have the most access and first access to children. So my question, sort of an offshoot from this caller's question, is what are we putting in place for parents to be equipped? Because it's all fine and dandy for you to say, look out for these things. I can look out for those things because maybe I have a little bit more understanding, and I had a preemie, and so I was automatically making sure that she was meeting her developmental, targets. And I was constantly taking her in to the pediatrician, and of course, they were, again, knowing that she was a preemie, doing her checks, making sure that cognitive skills were up to par, her physical development skills were up to par. But for parents who don't know, and not knowing is not, that's not the sin, I suppose. It's if you know and you don't do anything about it. But for parents who genuinely don't know, who don't know how to help themselves, who don't have the resources, the skill set to even be able to identify that something is wrong with a child, or if that child is already growing up in a disadvantaged environment, how are we reaching those children? Because they're the most at risk.
Absolutely. So, Sandra, excellent question, and it's an excellent segue. Let me read part of the statement I delivered in Parliament. High-performing education systems across the world are clear on one principle: equity begins in the early years. They invest in strong early childhood provision, systematic screening, qualified practitioners, and responsive intervention services. That is the direction that we will continue to move. What I announced also is we are going to create for education and for development a passport similar to your vaccine passport. So just as every person right now has a vaccine record, and we do a good job at monitoring when people go in and get their vaccines at the appropriate ages, right? People go to the clinic, and so when you go to the clinic, you get an appointment to come back. So they tell you consistently, here is how we're going to immunize your child. So just as healthcare is immunizing all of our children, we're going to really, really ramp up what we have. In my mind, we have something now called Smart Start, but it needs to go deeper, and it needs to be broader, and it needs to be deeper and more consistent. What we are going to do is we are going to work closely with health professionals so that we have them administer our diagnostic tool, or we will have staff on hand to do so. I don't know which model is going to work. That's going to depend on what resources health has and how they can accommodate us. But what I announced is that we're going to have a developmental passport for all young people, all children in Cayman, so that we will have milestones that every human being is supposed to be reaching 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, so that when we get interaction with each of our children, if a parent hasn't diagnosed or hasn't noticed, sometimes a parent just didn't notice either, right? So this isn't about naming and shaming parents either. To your point, Sandra, sometimes a parent just would not have noticed. And so we are going to be working and ensuring that we're completing that important work, because we need to ensure that key milestones are met systematically. That way we can say to a parent, let's say 9 months, okay, here's what we've now noticed. Yes, you've come in to do a booster, but here's what we've also noticed that your child is not doing at this stage. We have to report this. And let me be clear about this, Sandra. I intend to make this reporting mandatory. I believe that children cannot speak for themselves. I believe children at this age obviously are extremely vulnerable. And as a government, as a minister, as Caymanians, as people, we need to protect all of our citizens to the best of our abilities. And for me, to the best of my ability, is to ensure that once any developmental delay is identified, it is reported. So that would get reported in a shared database with EIP so that we can then start the intervention process. We have to meet parents. Here's my view. Some people say we're going to meet parents, a lot of parents halfway. Honestly, I think there's a lot of parents out there we need to meet all the way. Like
Mhm.
we need to be reaching that hand out and ensuring, because as I said, the honest truth is there is a number of things that professionals through an evaluation process would notice that a lot of parents just wouldn't,
Mhm.
especially young parents, especially a parent with their first child. Picture yourself, you're 23 years old, you've just had your first baby, you
Mhm.
have no idea, no context as to what to look for versus a first child. Because a lot of times you'll hear parents say, boy, I was much better on my second time around because I noticed stuff the second time around that I didn't notice in the first child, because you've now had that experience. So
Mhm.
that is the key thing, Sandra, is we need to be working closely with health. We need to be encouraging prenatal checks, prenatal diet, prenatal development, because that's the other thing, Sandra, that all of us as a community need to embrace is what happens before a child comes is also important, right? That's also critically important. What does your diet look like? How are you getting along? And we need to do all we can to ensure that our Caymanian parents out there, especially those who are vulnerable and are in at-risk families, are getting access to proper nutrition to give our children the best possible outcomes.
Mhm. Fantastic. Ms. Pat says, I think parenting education should be offered and strongly recommended with prenatal checks. And again, Ms. Pat, to the point, if you have a parent who is doing prenatal checks, then they're more likely to also be interested in parenting classes. And I think it's public health in conjunction with the HSA does offer classes leading up to childbirth. And I attended those, and I can tell you that the number of Caymanian faces that I saw in those segments was disappointingly low. So we need to get the messaging out there in more ways than one to our own people that these things are very, very important. It shouldn't even be optional. I think all parents should be doing their prenatal checks. They should be going to the prenatal classes. They teach you a lot, give you lots of information about health and nutrition and wellness and the whole nine yards. So absolutely. Sylvia Wilkes is in the comment section this morning. Good morning, Sylvia. How are you? She says it's admirable to provide the funding. However, what is the additional support for these families? Is the Department of Education able to track the progress of the children of these families? Miss Anne, I think that's been answered, Sylvia, but Miss Anne Rice also says, thank you, Mr. Rolston. Sylvia goes on, our young people have great potential, but it's cut short by parents and caregivers that are not intentional about the care and daily activities of their children. No routines, no responsibilities, no time spent teaching, etc. And it would be cool if parents were taught how to teach their own children. The focus needs to be more on the foundation and organization of the home. Again, Ms. Sylvia Wilkes, can't disagree with anything that you've said. I draw on my own experience. I've only got the one. I can't imagine those of you who have 5 and 6, how you even do it. But one of the things I realized very, very early on was the necessity to have structure. So I'm a parent who's around because I'm self-employed, but I also have a very busy day jumping on phone calls. And so my initial thought was to get a helper when Gianna was about 8-9 months old. And I tried her out. We did it on a temporary basis. And then I realized the helper was only equipped to sit there and hold her all day while she's watching Grey's Anatomy. And I quickly realized that certainly wasn't up to my standards. That wasn't going to work. And so I opted to get rid of the helper and put her in daycare. And if I can say to any parent, having that structure of a good daycare program where she was interacting with other children, because again, there were no other children at home. She was interacting with other children. They were singing with them. They were, just constant interactions, doing everything with them. They're still in diapers, but they're getting all the physical care, but also the emotional and academic, if we can use that word, the play, learning through play and all of that type of engagement. I immediately saw developmental jumps. The light bulbs were going off in my daughter within like weeks of her being in that environment. So it's not always the case that as parents, we can have this completely structured environment during the day. Most people have helpers who are multitasking. They're there to watch the baby, but when we say watch the baby, we just mean ensure the baby doesn't get killed, right? That I come home to a healthy baby at the end of the day. But do they have time to be, or even have the skills to be doing lessons with your child, engaging with the child, engaging in appropriate play? No, they're probably trying to clean your house at the same time. So I think we need to be realistic about what our expectations are, what actually works. And this is where things like the ECAP program, the Early Childhood Intervention and Education, really comes into play, because as parents, we need that support from early childhood facilities. Minister, those were just my thoughts. I'm seeing some of the questions coming in as a parent.
No, absolutely, Sandra, absolutely, and you've hit the nail on the head on a number and a wide range of your responses. What I will say is that this is something that takes all of us. That's just the fact, right? The programming options in the community is something that is worrying, in the sense that we do still have a number of centers that we need to lift the standards. That's not lost on me. We have a small team in the ministry that goes out and do learning cafes, they do some random inspections, etc. And that's all good. That's all solid stuff.
Mhm.
What I'm looking at present is costing out a system that could cause government to interface with those centers more. But the fact is, that's something I have to cost out, because right now we don't do that. We don't do that at all. But as I've told my colleagues in caucus, by the end of next month, we are certainly going to be in a position where we are going to be able to make a presentation as to what the modern ECCE ecosystem needs to look like. Now, let me also say, Sandra, that, and this is good news, and was sort of buried in the statement, effective April 1st, the monthly ECAP rates are going to increase from $541 a month to $625 a month for the basic assistance, and from $812 to $937 for supplementary assistance. Basic is 50%. Those who qualify for 50% coverage. The supplementary is when you qualify for 75% funding. That's for parents who have children in the program right now. We think that's hugely important. That's hugely important for cost of living. That's going to provide, that doesn't sound like a lot, but for anyone who's living paycheck to paycheck, that extra $100 and something for supplementary assistance, that's going to be meaningful. So we're increasing the rates that are going to be in effect for the next 2 budget cycles. We're implementing them from April 1st for those who already were in the system prior to the budget being passed last December.
Mhm. Fantastic. All right, folks.
But the
Yes,
bottom
sir.
line is, Sandra, the one great thing that I love about this topic now
Mhm.
is that 15, so it would have been in 2000, and we won the elections in 2009. It would have been in late 9, early 10 was when I came to the public and said this was going to be the #1 strategic priority. And I explained and gave the harrowing story of how we were no longer offering reception in government schools, etc. And I got kicked back, Sandra, back then. I never forget that. There were still people who wanted me to invest in loads of other areas, sixth form and other areas that's for high performing students, a small percentage of our population versus the basics, intervening when it matters most and ensuring that we put children on a trajectory. It's good now that I think widely, after preaching and people really catching on, I think generally speaking, it's widely accepted that early childhood care and education is the most important aspect of the education system. We're just going to build and ensure that the gaps that are still there are filled the best we can we can't leave any child behind. One child left behind is one too many.
Thank you so much, Minister. And I want to do a quick check-in with all of our listeners out there to remind them it's your squat time. We're not going to force the minister to do any today, but I just muted myself and did my 25. So I expect the rest of you to also get up.
Sandra, now you're going to make me look like a slacker. So you should have told me.
No,
Like, despite the fact that I do have a sore foot from trying to begin, from doing some exercises earlier in the week, I would have at least attempted. But since you've done yours, let's move on.
Yes, yes. I just wanted her. We fell off the wagon for a little bit, and this week we're getting back on the wagon. So I just wanted to remind our listeners that I hadn't forgotten that I had just done mine. So wonderful.
There you go.
All right. So let's see. Andrew has a really, really interesting point here. He makes a number of different comments about the necessity to nurture our children and the balance of their needs, proper planning, attention, and implementation with guidance, teaching, development. And he says something very, very interesting. He says government can do so much to support. However, parents need to sit down and look at their family planning seriously. And so this is essential. And it's something that I harp on all the time, because not just, the Britney Spears syndrome. Oops, we did it again. We got another one. And then you kind of fall into like, you just do what you can. You've got to look at what you can afford to have in terms of children. And I don't mean necessarily monetary resources. That's important, of course, but also what you can afford in terms of your time. You know, a lot of us are very, very busy professionals, busy individuals. And so the amount of time that you can give each child on an individual basis by the time you get home, especially if you live in the Eastern District with traffic, is very, very limited. And it's important that you spend time with your children, that you talk to them. You know, some of the biggest life lessons are not from inside of a classroom. It's from those conversations with yourself and engaging your children in activities and having them being involved in the community and teaching them from an early age to care about, you know, civics and volunteerism and all of these things. So all of that takes time, folks. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Sandra, you hit a point that almost slipped me. So thank you for causing me this to be recalled. I used to have a saying in politics my first time around that everything affects everything. Let me give you some other experiences that I'm now being imparted with in my school tours. A lot of people, we've been talking about the East-West arterial and how important it is to this country from a development standpoint, also from a human standpoint. People are just sitting in traffic too long. They're getting to work frustrated. They have to leave work at home extremely early. It's just bad. We know this, right? There's going to be some traffic in every country, but when it's bumper to bumper the way it is coming out of the Eastern districts is where it's unacceptable. So what's being reported to me is right now, the infancy class for the Eastern districts for Northside and East End are housed at the East End Primary School. And so one of the issues that Northside parents are facing is taking their infant children to East End Primary, then making their way to town for work. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. If we didn't have the traffic issues we had, it then becomes a logistical inconvenience, but it's doable. Jump on the Queens Highway, hit the school, you come back down, or whichever route you choose, you go to school, drop off for infant class, and then you go head to work. Imagine having to leave home to go to East End Primary and then come all the way back down into town and into traffic. And so yet another reason why it's so important, just for that, those groups of parents and those groups of children, because what's being reported to me is we're having people now who are looking on and saying, I'm just going to leave my child at home with the helper because why am I going to go in that direction? Or instead of using the resource at the school, they simply come out and drop their child en route to an early learning center on the way into Georgetown, right? So it is an issue. I want to make sure that, and I mentioned this to my colleague from the district, the Honorable J.E. Banks. It is an issue that's on my radar. I can't fix it in the sense that until the East-West arterial is built, that's just going to be a huge issue, right? But we are looking at the redevelopment of the Northside Primary School, and that now is also come in the mix as I'm thinking through what the redevelopment of that school needs to look like and what provisioning we need to have there. Do we also need to have an infancy class there, given the fact that they are Eastern District schools and it's so much more difficult for them? So it's only two schools, two districts, well, three if you count East and North Side combined. Two districts in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac. So three districts in total that actually have government providing the earliest years, which is having provision for children 2 to 3 years old at present. So that's where we are with that in terms of our entire approach and in broad strokes, Sandra, that's where we're heading with ECCE. We will get the work done. This is hugely important. We're not going to lose focus. This is the number one priority of the ministry. It has, we must, by the end of this term, be able to celebrate as a country and say, we now have all the systems in place to be able to identify, evaluate, intervene at the earliest years and help our children. Parents are key.
All right.
At home and that reporting and interface is key. But we also talked about home health care.
Before, Minister, just quickly, I know time is ticking, but before we move on to that, I just wanted to wrap up a few of the comments in relation to the early education. So Mellow Fellow says, what is the, we'll send that on to his team, because what I'm doing, Mellow Fellow, if it's not directly, because like I said, time is very, very limited this morning for the minister. He has a hard cutoff time this morning, but any questions that come in that are not relevant on point, we'll send that on to the team. So Ms. Margie, if you've been paying attention, what age should a child start preschool? The early intervention program, you can start as early as 2 years old, is what the minister just said. So pretty early on, or even before that, I mean, you can
even
do
before that
daycare.
early intervention, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but reception starts at age 4 in our public schools.
All right. Greg says, we arranged for a nanny to take a course to help her better care for my girls. By the time they reach kindergarten, they could recognize and spell their names and were able to do basic math and reading. Mari Abe says an emotional bond with parents and guardians is what keeps me centered and strong. Children need someone whom they can believe and support. I think you meant the other way around, but we get the point. Miss Anne says, bless her minister for his knowledge and compassion for saving our education system. Miss Anita says, I hope that our primary school system doesn't focus heavily on early academic performance, but also on a holistic, low stress approach. For example, character development, independence, social responsibility, cultivating a good human first, much like the Japanese model.
Yeah, and that's why back in 2011 when we rolled out the first national curriculum framework for early years, it was a play-based approach, and that's critically important, and we're going to continue that. That's critically important. We didn't need to be heavy academics at that point.
Exactly. All right. So the next topic that we want to give the minister an opportunity to discuss today is the home health care program, which again, HHC is a Cineco administered benefit intended for medically necessary care at home as an alternative or follow-up to hospital care. And there's 3 different benefit levels. We've got a max of $3,000 per month. You've got one at $2,000 and one at $1,200 per caregiver per month for up to 2 caregivers. Minister, if you can tell us a little bit about this, because about 97% of claims are at level 3, which is the lowest tier for non-nursing care. But yeah, I've heard of a lot of abuses around this. I've heard a lot of concerns about this. So there've been capital injections, costs are going up. tell us what we need to know in relation to the home health care program.
So, Sandra, I was told by a number of former and current politicians that I needed to be very, very careful about touching this because it was going to be political and popular, and people are going to be seeing that that I was going to be trying to take away something that they had gotten used to getting. So, Sandra, I've never taken that approach when it came to politics. It's about the truth. It's about putting all the facts on the table so the community understands the situation and therefore can appreciate the response. So, Sandra, what was started in 2018 was, I'm going to use the word policy because, I do use policy in quotes, because how it got to this point clearly demonstrates the lack of a real policy. The evil that government was trying to address at that point was that persons were going into the Georgetown Hospital for surgery, but having to stay in a bed to recover. Therefore, the hospital, for years now, you keep hearing about lack of beds, lack of beds, lack of beds. A lot of it has been because persons who need to recover, there is no rehab facility in Cayman. There is no medical rehab facility in our islands. And so the government then took the view and said, okay, why don't we intervene in that? Why don't we create a program that if you have a medical necessity that is so acute that you need medical attention at home, that will help you recover at home, would be for a short period of time until you recovered, and then the funding would end. There was another batch, smaller batch, thank God, that existed of persons who were permanently medically disabled. So you had a stroke, massive stroke. You're now at home. How do we care for mom or dad, husband, wife, after he or she has had a major medical incident? And there wasn't any structure around how government was doing that. And so that's where this home health care, let me make sure I repeat this twice, Sandra. Home health care, not home care. Home health care program was started. So it started, and that's what the government at the time was seeking to remedy. It was those two categories, those two buckets that were causing issues in the community. So government at the time in 2018 said, aha, let's try and assist families with this. And so if you do the math, Sandra, it's quite simple. The first year there was $3,053,000 spent. Just call that an even $3 million. And so government therefore responded. And if you do, and I love doing the math while we're here, Sandra, if you do the simple math and you take 3 million and you divide that by 36,000, because it's 3,000 per month for those who needed the RN to really, those persons, and let's say that the vast majority of people needed that level of care up front. You're talking about 83 people. Now, some would have been at the 2,000 level, but let's say around 8,300 people was what was being serviced at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, by 2019, the program grew to $3,934,509, 29% increase. By 2020, it grew to $4,144,664. 2020 was COVID. We were in lockdown. That's the reason there was such a small growth, 5%. Now we jump to 2021. We've reopened. We've created our bubble. Reopened as in we had free movement in Cayman. So we've created our bubble. It grew to $5,120,565, a 24% increase. By 2022, $5,700,924, an 11% increase. 2023, $7,925,110, a 39% increase. 2024, $9,552,286, a 21% increase. 2025, $11,461,274, a 20% increase. Sandra, year on year, this has increased by an average of 21%. It is wholly unsustainable. So, Sandra, your question to me should be, oh, have we had that amount of people be permanently ill at home? Or have we had that amount of people in surgery that needed care to the volume that would have created this sort of increase? Because remember now, persons who are going to recover, so let's just say you had hip surgery. Let's accept. Mom, dad has hip surgery. They're 72 years old. They're living alone. Children are working. That's a tough call for them to care for mom other than mom or dad being in the hospital. So good, they would get the care, but that should be temporary, Sandra. Once they're mobile and back to themselves, they're back to being able to care for themselves. So that bucket, which should have been the biggest bucket, should always be a temporary care arrangement type bucket. The reason that people have asked, well, why is it that cynical? Well, it was seen as an insurance plan program by the then government, which I can see where they were coming from. They looked at it and said, well, let's have it purchased by Cineco so they can use the same facility that they were using for the civil service health insurance plan to now buy care, elderly health care, not just elderly, sorry, health care for those who either need it permanently, i.e. long-term disabled, or for those in recovery. Sandra, what has happened is that this system has now devolved into people putting their hand up and saying, oh, this is as of right. Once I have an elderly parent, government has to give me $1,200 per month to put someone in the home with my elderly parent. We have cases here where the need is to ensure a person takes their medicine for the day. Sandra, there's nowhere on earth, let me repeat that, there's nowhere on earth where any central government pays $1,200 a month, pays any dollars a month, so that a person just takes their medication. Sandra, this didn't exist 12 years ago when I was elected. We didn't have old people just meeting their maker because there was a lack of this type of funding. We have to take accountability in our community. It is unacceptable that we say that government, i.e. the taxpayers, at $1,200 per month should be funding for something as basic. That is about us checking on our parents. That is about us ensuring that they're doing something very basic. It's also been reported to me that there are cases that have been approved by personal physicians. Because remember now, it's healthcare, so all these are being signed off by a doctor, you know. So what is happening is persons are going to their personal physicians who are then writing letters to the CMO to say, oh, by the way, this person, my patient, there's a need. Sometimes the need is company at home. So the person can cook, cleaning, but the children then say, well, you know what? We want someone to be there with mom and dad. We just want someone to be there in the house. Let's do the numbers. This has grown from 3 million in 2018 to 11.5 million in 2025. Here are the projections, Sandra. If we were to increase the level 3, because that's what people in the community have been writing me to say, because Cineco falls to the Ministry of Finance. So they're writing me to say, oh, now that minimum wage has come in, we think that should be increased. We think the 1,200 should be more, because the agencies that they're hiring people through are writing them to say, oh, well, with minimum wage, we're going to cut the hours of the persons that in the home. And if we were, that would mean we would increase it to $1,700 a month. Just on the current number and the current growth rate. And we rounded it. We said 21 is an odd number, so we just used 20%. At 20% and increasing it to 1,700, by the end of this year, Sandra, this program would have grown from 11 to 19.5 million. By 2027, 23.4 million. By 2028, 28.1 million. In other words, Sandra, within a short period of time, this program would grow to surpass the infamous NGS 55. These are your show is the cold hard truth. This morning is about the cold hard truth of government finances and government policy. This is when a good idea or a noble idea, wholly implemented, and I'll never forget the words of Billy Adam. One thing that I've heard him say that I agree with completely: a good or noble idea, wholly implemented, becomes a bad idea. And this is a classic example, Sandra. It is completely and wholly unaffordable. This country could literally go bankrupt on this. I then, because also falling to my ministry is the Economic and Statistics Office. So, Sandra, let's look at what our current population is. Our current population at age 65 and over is 5,602 individuals. 60 to 64, 3,358 individuals. If we were to try to fund all of them at $1,200 a month, it would come out to well in excess of $150 million. Now, people may say, well, Rolston, that's really, really extreme. Of course it is. But I'm giving what the worst case scenario could be if we simply go down the route that we've gone, which is to have no guardrails around this program. And so what I announced, Sandra, in the House was that we're going to form a committee of the whole House to look at this. We're going to take all the data. We're going to take all the ESO data. We're going to have Cineco come in as an expert witness to clearly delve into what the magnitude of this problem is, which this is the headline numbers, and be able to have the public understand what this program is, what it really is. And I believe this was started in 2018 by the then government. It's now wound up in my lap. I say a committee of the whole House is who is going to determine and shape this program. What is it going to look like going forward? What are the guardrails that we're going to put in place? Let me give you a classic example, Sandra. Right now, there's no means testing. No means testing around this. So you can be as wealthy as you can be, you still get access to this. No means testing.
Okay.
So when I tell you there's no guardrails around this, and it is frightening. When I think about the budget and when I think about implications, it's frightening. Let me be very, very clear. Those in need, those who have meet the medical need, are going to continue to be funded. It's the abuses of the system that we need to address. Let me give you one other abuse that Cineco has identified. So you can get a caregiver in two different ways. A family can get a caregiver through one of these companies that offer caregivers. Or listen to this one, Sandra, you can go and hire one yourself directly. So Family X can get an individual, hire them. However, because this is a Cineco ran program, the payment goes to the recipient, just like insurance, right? Sandra, when you make your medical claim, they don't pay that money to Marlon, your husband. When you make a claim, that comes back to you, because they have to pay you. You're the policyholder, right? So the named individual on the form becomes the quote unquote equivalent of the policyholder in this instance. So Cineco pays $1,200 out to the family, to the individual. What Cineco has started to get reports of is families hiring a person sharing them with another family as a domestic helper. Because remember, you don't have to have any medical experience for level 3. Paying them $800, but getting $1,200 in from Cynical. That in another country, another definition is fraud. That's
Of
that's
course.
insurance fraud. Because if you're paying, if you're receiving $1,200 that should be going to the person to contribute, because remember, that's the other thing, right? This was never intended to cover the entire cost. This is a stipend to help, just assist, to offset. That's why there's staggered layers. That's why it goes from 3,000 to 2,000 to 1,200, reflecting what the need is for that person who's medically recovering or have a real medical or health need, right? It's a health care aid that you're supposed to be hiring, and it's for that purpose. The other thing that we understand that has been happening for years in the community is that these companies are now out in the community actively recruiting clients. So they're going, yes, Sandra, they are going to families and saying, we understand you have an elderly grandmother. Do you know that government has this program? Get her doctor to sign off, and you can get your $1,200. So Sandra, this has become an unequivocal mess. This isn't heading for a train wreck. This is already the train is off the rails. The train is completely off the rails. What I can tell the country and the community is my job is to ensure that persons with healthcare needs at home are met. That's the first and primary role for government, for Cynical, for me as minister. And I am going to make sure that that happens. Equally, as a parliamentarian, but in particular the Minister of Finance, I have a duty of care to ensure that the public purse is not abused. And that when programs are rolled out, we put proper systems and guardrails and criteria around the programs. And so it is a huge mess. Yes, I could have cowered away and said, oh, well, let me not say this publicly because you know what, if I go out and say this, then, I might get some constituents upset with me. No, Sandra, you get elected to do the right thing as it relates to your duty of care to the public. We have a high duty of care to the public as parliamentarians. This is a part of the job, and sometimes the job is tough. These are times where it's not nice. I gave you a nice story of what we're going to be doing at early childhood. Now we have a mess in our hands we need to clean up.
Wow.
And I say to people out there, please, if you know that you're abusing the system, end it. Because I can tell you, I take a dim view on anyone taking monies from the government that they know they shouldn't be applying for. And worse yet, taking monies from the government, knowing that you're paying the person less than you're receiving. That's fraud.
That's fraud, really. It's fraud.
It's fraud. It's fraud. If you did that to a regular insurance company, if you and your doctor cooked up a bill and sent it into the insurance company, and the doctor then said, okay, look, I'm going to pocket you a little $300 out of this so that you submit this claim, the two of you have committed fraud. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
And now in this instance, more than likely, the person who's the employee doesn't know they're a part of the scheme. They're just looking for a job in Cayman, right? They're just looking for a job in Cayman and to be a helper in Cayman. But I can tell you that the evidence is that there are knowing participants out there who are getting the $1,200, sharing that domestic helper with another family, each person paying, let's say, $800-900 to the person and pocketing the remainder. Not right, Sandra. The program is hugely important. The program is going to continue. We're just going to make sure that the program is sustainable so it can survive. If we leave it unchecked, then it's going to collapse, and then no one is going to benefit, and no one wins. We cannot have those numbers are real, and they're staggering with the growth that we've seen. Think about this, Sandra. 2018 to 2025. That's a long enough period of time to show a real pattern. And this has increased by 21% on average per year. That's not a statistical anomaly at this point. That isn't year one. So you're hoping by year 2 and 3 it's going to go down. That is consistent growth over a sustained period of time. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 23, 24, 25. 8 years in, almost a decade. The evidence is in. The program is being abused. It's not been clearly enough identified and not identified. It's not been clearly enough defined, and the criteria is not there. And we need to have some form of means testing. It has to be for those who are most in need. That's what programs like this are designed for, Sandra.
Wow.
So,
well, thank
so
you.
that's a bit of a downer to end on.
Yes.
But the good thing is it's out in the open, because that's one of the things that this show is about getting things out to the public. Let's get it in the open so everyone knows what's happening in our Cayman Islands, and not wondering, well, why is government talking about this? Why is the minister getting up and talking about this? This isn't about me trying to be some mean guy and saying, oh, let's try to save money. No, this is about saving the country and the budget, our budget. This is all of our budget, right? But with Sandra, it's been a great show, I think.
Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Thank you very much for that.
I tell you that I do have a heart. I've actually gone overtime.
You have.
Supposed to leave at 9:15. But just want to say that it's been a great show. And I want to thank you and our audience. I want to wish everyone in our community a great weekend. I also do want to do a special shout out to a friend of mine's family. Not special shout out. I want to send sympathies to Mr. David Frederick's family, who his funeral is today. He was a long-serving, good public servant, who was head of the Cayman Islands Airports Authority. He was the CEO there. He's being laid to rest today. God's willing, I'll be attending his funeral, and I just want to pass on sympathies to him, to his family. Also want to pass on sympathies to the family of Miss Doris Reed from West Bay. She was a well-known member of our community, and all families who are grieving. It seems like every weekend there's just funeral after funeral after funeral in our beloved islands. And I just want to, let's keep all those families in our prayers, Sandra, because somewhere out there in our islands, there's some family that's grieving today. So let's lift them up in prayer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Minister. We really appreciate you coming on the program this morning. And for the benefit of our listeners, just a reminder, some of you have sent in questions that weren't really specific to the topics for today. I'm sending those on to the minister's ministerial team. They will get answers, and in another visit where he perhaps does an open mic segment, we will get to those. Ministry Matters is our weekly, if we can get them here, or monthly, we'll take it however we can get it, deep dive into government decision-making, where we move beyond the headlines and press releases, the questions, the policies, procedures, and performance of the people in charge. It's a space for honest, as you can see this morning, informed conversations, with those holding the public purse and shaping the laws that affect your everyday life, my everyday life. And it also gives you an opportunity, the public, to hear directly from ministers on what they have going on, what they're doing, and how it will impact Caymanians now and in the future. So we thank the minister. He's committed to coming on as many Fridays as his schedule will allow him to do so that we can touch on areas that he's directly responsible for. So let's again put our virtual hands together for the Minister of Education and Training, which is the areas that we were covering today, the Honorable Rolston Anglin. Thank you so much, sir. All right, folks, let's get up and do the squats. Yes, I see you reminding me, Evelyn. She says, squats, please. So let's go ahead and get up. I did mine earlier. Whew. Yes, honey child. So let me see here now. I did 25 earlier, so I'm going to aim for another 25. So while I'm doing it, I'm also going to be reading some comments. You know, it's hard to do any level of exercise and talk at the same time, but we're going to get it done. So that means that I need somebody to count for me. So you need to count for me and tell me when I've actually reached the 25 mark, okay? Pat was asking a really good question. I'm going to start now. She says, what are the penalties for the abuse of our resources? Anne says, what the heck? Abuse must be gone. Honestly, the penalty should be what it would be for any other fraud that you commit against the government. It should be properly investigated. Once the fraud is proven, the DPP's office, wake up. They need to ensure that they prosecute these individuals and you pay the money back. I mean, the judge will ultimately, once you're found guilty, decide on what the penalty will be. This is a level of fraud. It's so interesting because I've heard complaints from caregivers about how they're being paid and what they're being paid, right? So I knew that some level of fraud was occurring. I must admit that I had no idea it was that bad. So this is extremely concerning for the public purse. And when you consider that there's potential fraud with DFS? Oh Lord, I gotta get used to the new name. But anyway, formerly NAU, and now this fraud, which involves Cynical and home healthcare program. This is crazy. This is where we waste money in the public purse and there's been no accountability. And then we wonder why we can't afford some of the things that people really, really want. What number am I on, by the way? Whew. Give me a count because, boy, I'm feeling it now. Happy Friday, Julius. How you doing? Anne says, round them up and make them accountable. Crazy mess. Miss Sue says, you mean we can get $1,200, Minister? I'm retired. Came in, pay $200 a month in health insurance. No, I think you're not quite understanding what the program is, Miss Sue. Give me 1 second. Somebody, I gone to what? 40? Did I do that many already? Lord have mercy. Why y'all never told me to stop? El Ray is saying those are half squats. Them need deep in it. Listen. Whew. Heartbeat definitely gone up. Melody complaining, but I need to get deeper. You do deeper. You do 41 deeper squats. No, I'm like touching the chair. What are you gonna say next? The chair is too high. Okay, I'll count it as 41. Whew, we'll go with that. Evelyn said 50. Did we go that high? Lord have mercy. Still better than doing nothing, El Ray. Right. So listen. I think this is quite shocking what the minister has brought to our attention this morning, and obviously something that we need to pay very, very close attention to. Wow. Clean it up. Clean up the swamp. And in this instance, we mean like really clean it up. Not Trump's version of cleaning up the swamp, which is adding to the swamp. No, we mean clean this swamp up. Let me drink some water. All right. Anne says, let's report those we know that are abusing the system with fraud. Somebody said, give the minister a kaboom, please. Miss Lorna is asking about uniforms and banning cell phones. As far as I know, they were already banned, but let me send this on to, again, the ministerial team. So just to be clear, the minister has a team that is watching the show normally when he's on in particular, and most of them when they do come on, and that they can then chase up some of these follow-up questions for us. So we covered a lot of ground this morning, and Michelle did 60 squats. You go, girl. We want to give them obviously an opportunity to, I've sent it in the wrong chat. Oh, hold on. Oh, yikes. Okay, we want to give them an opportunity to get the correct answers for some of these things. And the other thing is we really want to ensure that because sometimes the minister's on here, but he gets asked questions that he doesn't necessarily know the direct answer to, so he has to revert back to the team. So this does give them an opportunity. So the next time that he's on, if he has open mic, because how it works is the team, depending on what's happening, like in Parliament, what's happening in the ministry, they will oftentimes send us areas that they specifically want to touch on. And so as much as possible, we want to stay within those perimeters, because we need to know what's current, like what's happening. And, and so that is why we give them the grace of saying, okay, these are the topics for today. Let's go ahead and address these. Sometimes it gets a little bit manic and it's all over the place when we have like questions and callers and stuff coming in. We certainly don't mind the callers, but if we can keep it a bit more focused, and then we'll say to them, listen, let's just do an open mic segment for the next visit so that people can ask any questions of the minister across education. And then, that makes sense as well. So Phineas says, them knees burning. Child, you got to strengthen the knees, and by strengthening and doing those squats, you actually are helping the knees in the long run. Nikki says, mind the knees, Auntie. It's one of those things where you gotta do a little bit to gain, right? So knee strength, as we all know, with me just having a meniscus tear and some cartilage damage in the knee, the knees are very, very important to the overall strengthening of the rest of the body. So one of the things that actually helps to strengthen your knees, now this sounds crazy, but apparently it's true, is walking backwards. None of us do that. I mean, when you think about it, who walks backwards? Kids. But apparently walking backwards is good for strengthening the knees. So we should all be doing it. And you can do it on a treadmill. Obviously, be very, very careful. But yeah, you can even do it on a treadmill. Wow. I'm impressed. I'm going to start trying to walk backwards. Right. So someone says you're looking slimmer. Okay. All right. So we're gonna not go into a whole lot of oh Lord have mercy. We're not going to go into a whole lot of overtime today because I've actually got quite a busy day ahead. I got a couple appointments, and I am in court this afternoon as well. So let me tell you that supposedly my trial will be starting on Monday with the John Felder situation. By court order, I can't really talk about it. I can't say any more. I just tell you guys when I'm going to court, so at least you know. But as I'm able to provide updates, if and when I'm able to provide updates, I will do so. All right. So, yes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, and then I'll inform you guys of what happens next. But let's talk a little bit about FAFO Friday. Buckle up. And someone said, good golf on right now. Oh, sorry. Forgot about this person's request. Oh, Lord have mercy. Trying to multitask here. That is for, okay. All right, give me 1 second. 1 second. 1 second, sir. He wants to watch golf and he's asking me a question. Okay. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Righty ho, righty ho. Okay. Yep. There we go. Are we in the middle of a golf tournament or something on right now? Hold on. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Yes, sir. I'm coming. All right. You should be good. You're good. Thank you, darling. Okay. Right. So let's have a little bit of a FAFO moment. So I think it was a Monday show. We were talking about the fact that there was this lawyer who allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty, but our sources identified him. that he was involved in this car accident where he left the scene of an accident. Someone said he actually called a taxi. I was like, he did what? Call a taxi? Who the hell does that? Well, apparently when you're rich and entitled, you do that. Can I make a suggestion to Logan? You know when you should have called a taxi? Was before you got in the accident. Yeah, that is when you call a taxi. Not after you get in the accident and then you're trying to evade having the police do a breathalyzer or do blood work to show what your blood alcohol level was. Well, Logan, trying to find his picture again. Give me 1 second here. We're going to stick him back up on the screen. My sources now reveal, remember, this is the accident that happened on Sunday night, I think it was, right there going into the yacht club entrance on which is, I guess, that's still the Esther Lee Tibbetts Highway, closer to the West Bay side. Here he is. The police have now arrested him and bailed him on suspicion of, let me pull up the story here so we can get the exact arrest details. Lawyer and now turned property developer, we should say, has been arrested and released on bail in connection with a two-car collision that left another driver hospitalized and sparked widespread public speculation after the driver of the second vehicle fled the scene before police arrived. So the dude is driving, one source has revealed, not just any Audi, R8, which is a very expensive car, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but apparently he was driving a limited edition, which they go up to like something like $400,000. Oh, the life of the entitled. It is madness. So our sources reveal, and we'll wait for verification on some of this if this goes to trial, we'll see, that this dude actually had the audacity to call a taxi to come and pick him up. My God. Another eyewitness said that he ran from the scene of the accident. The injured victim was attempting to question him and hold him at the scene because he realized that he was going to leave the scene of the accident. Who on earth does this? You see, when we have these conversations about riffraffs in this country, let me be very, very clear what that means, right? Riffraff doesn't have anything to do with where you're from. It doesn't have anything to do with your socioeconomic level. So you could be a rich riffraff and you can be a poor riffraff. You can be black, or whatever we're calling African Americans, African, whatever. I'm just gonna still call them black. It's not politically correct, I'm sure. Brown skin, melanin people, whatever makes us happy these days. My point is, it doesn't matter what you look like. You could be English, you could be German, you could be Cayman Bracker, you could be, you could even be a riffraff Caymanian, as far as I'm concerned, because it's your behavior that makes you a riffraff. Now, I know for the most part, we've been talking about these riffraffs being importees that we bring into this country who simply don't know how to behave themselves. This guy looks like he probably has had a very privileged life his entire lifetime. He went to law school. He's done well for himself. He was able to come to the Cayman Islands, living his best life. This is when he was in his younger days, handsome back then, getting hired by top law firms like Maples and Calder. They probably were the ones who brought him here. And then he realized, oh, there's more money in property development, and all this sort of thing. Owner of a property development company. This is great. But guess what? You don't get to get all those amazing benefits of life in the Cayman Islands. And then you engage in this type of behavior. Dude, I don't really give two cahoots what you were doing. If you were snorting cocaine, having a baller, drinking in whatever, the second you decide to take this public, right? And you drink and drive, that is in the public domain. That then is when you, James Lagan, my apologies, I think I was calling him Logan. James Lagan is his name. That is when you then become a menace to society. And once you become a menace to society, then it's all fair game. Like it's all like, listen, dude, you know, yeah. Okay. We get to talk about you. He says that he's part of the Bronte Property Group, but he actually, I understand, owns the agency, which is a real estate group. And this is the kind of behavior that he feels entitled, I guess. Originally, he's from Australia, by the way. Australian. University of Sydney and Western Sydney University, he went to those. So it is really, really disheartening that we have someone of his means who has no excuse. You see, this is the part that gets me, because some of y'all be like, oh, but Sandy, you know, getting a tax is expensive. So you might not be able to afford it, but this dude can afford a 200,000, 400,000, whatever estimates you believe, vehicle. Calling a taxi should be no issue whatsoever. How do you not see that that is actually the right thing to do, James Lagan? You could have killed that guy. I mean, you guys saw how mashed up the cars were, right? And then were you going to actually be paying the gentleman's bill in relation to his injuries? Or if heaven forbid you had killed him, his family, his children, his mom? You know, money can't bring people back. But these are the type of people who actually, quite interestingly enough, also want to try to fight people when they can. Like, oh, he doesn't intend to pay anybody a red cent. It is very, very unfortunate that James Lagan made some poor decisions recently that now has him in the news, has him arrested. And I hope that although the laws are pretty ridiculous around this sort of stuff, he's not going to get more than a slap on the wrist, to be quite frank and honest. You know, at the end of the day, they need to deal with him in the most forthright manner possible. So we'll be keeping an eye on the developments of this case without a doubt. And I really do hope that the authorities handle this case like they would any other individual, that there's no preferential treatment here, that he is dealt with fair and equitable, but that means actually following the letter of the law as it should be. No special treatments because he has connections or he has money and he can, you know, of course he's going to get himself a good lawyer, and the good lawyers will do what they always do. They will try to make this disappear as much as they possibly can. And I'll be honest with you, you know, a lot of them tend to do a fairly good job of it. They'll get all kind of all sorts of creativity. And he's, you know, he'll get a slap on the wrist because the laws are slack. Now, our lawmakers need to pay attention, because we've said it before and we're going to obviously repeat it now again, that one of the areas that clearly we need to tighten legislation is in relation to people who leave the scene of an accident. Because now the more serious offense, which would be DUI, they can't prove, right? They cannot prove that this guy was actually drinking and driving. What evidence do we have of that? They need a blood test in order to be able to prove that. So this guy has a very good chance now of walking scot-free And I can't remember off the top of my head what the requirements are for, or what the penalty, I should say, are for driving, for leaving the scene of the accident. But I don't think it's particularly very, very stringent. So this now is where I think the legislators, that's the people you elect to public office, they need to pay attention, and they need to say, you know what? We need to start understanding this is happening more frequently, right? So there's that degree of frequency. It's creating very, very serious situations. And perhaps what we actually need to do is start cracking down on, if you leave the scene of an accident, that will be far worse for you than if you were even caught with a DUI. Like, up both of them, as far as I'm concerned, both make them both really, really bad. But to be clear, leaving the scene of the accident should be considered a very serious offense. Okay. So, wow, what a mess. We'll continue to keep an eye on this, because I am obviously very, very perturbed that anybody would do this, but especially someone who really doesn't have any excuses. There's no reason why he couldn't call a taxi before. He obviously found he could speed dial a taxi when he got in the accident, or a friend or whoever the hell picked him up. Abby said, did he really report it stolen? I have no clue. I think a lot of people were saying that on Monday's show when we first discussed this incident. They were saying that, that's what they do, that they report it stolen after the fact. And again, that's not something that anybody should be taken serious. If you didn't report, especially that value of a car, if you didn't report that stolen beforehand, we honestly shouldn't believe him if he was to give that excuse now. So I'm not aware that he has made those statements to the police. Obviously, the police were asking for assistance in locating him. Now they have him. I mean, not for nothing, but can I just ask the police, how is it that you couldn't find this dude? How many people came in driving around a $400,000 Audi R8? Not that many. There's not that many of these cars on the road at all. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I was just thinking about something else. Not only did he run away, maybe because of being drunk, but another thing that passed my mind was, I don't think insurance paid claims out if you were found drunk as well. So it also gave him a chance.
That's right. But listen,
So that
he's balling. He's balling in so much money.
Right.
That insurance shouldn't even be his concern, but he's trying to run from the reputational damage that is going to come out of, imagine owning the agency, real estate company. And then your colleagues now looking at you this morning like, dude, you were out there drinking and driving. And there's rumors, again, these are rumors, but man, if it don't go so, it probably not far from so. There are rumors in the community that he dabbles in other drug activities as well. You know, the one that you snort off the table.
Yeah, but my experience, I've worked with a lot of people like him in that field. And my experience with working with them is that they're also very cheap. So we're looking on because we don't have anything and we would think that they have that and nothing to them. No, they're very cheap. We will pay $100 bill quicker. We will pay $100 bill quicker than they would pay $100 bill. People got chase them for their money. I'm not asking, I tell you. So for him, it would be more convenient for the insurance to pay, because again, there's no proof now that really he was drunk, even though we might know that he was drunk.
Yeah,
so
we
they're still gonna
suspect
probably be liable, right?
Yeah.
They might end up being liable for the medical and whatever else. It won't really be him. You know what I mean? So it could be that as well. Yes, his reputation, but also they don't like to spend money. So or at least nobody wants to spend that.
Right, but they want to spend it on. Yeah.
They'll spend it on a first class ticket
Right.
for $10,000 on a boat, but nah, enough of this.
Right. I got you. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much. So, I totally understand that. I feel her. I'm telling you, I've seen them. These so-called rich people. Absolutely. They want to spend it on a $400,000 car, but try and get them to donate to, a little effort here with something with children, they're gonna be like, "Are you crazy? I don't have any money." Well, he gonna have to pay this guy, and if the gentleman who was involved in the accident is listening to the program this morning, I'd like to encourage him to reach out to lawyers. Of course, I'm going to recommend Recover. They're the experts in this area. Reach out to them because they're going to be able to assist you. They know the law and what legally you're entitled to, right? For everything, not just your car, not just your medical expenses. You got to look at the long-term potential injuries that you could be facing. So they will undoubtedly do everything in their power to get you, sorted out as quickly as possible. So don't mess around. Contact Recover today. Shameless plug. Let me just play their commercial because I can't remember their number. 924, I think 9999. But while we're here, let me remind you of the services that they do offer. Let me just find it here. There we go.
Recover Personal Injury Attorneys, helping injured people get what they deserve. Did you know that insurance companies have lawyers that represent their interests? Before signing and accepting any settlement, know your rights. Call us today for a free consultation at 924-9999. That's 924-9999. Recover. Your personal injury attorneys are on standby to assist.
Evelyn says, well, Auntie Sandy, they should do him the way that they did the perfume thieves. Yes, girl. Deportation. I love it. Yeah. I think you guys all saw that article. Remember those ladies deciding to go and steal in the perfume store? We posted the video some months ago while they showed up in court. And I'm here to tell you that unfortunately for them, they FOFO. Yep. The judge said, okay, suspended sentence, but guess what? You got to get out of this country. And I tell you, I believe that deportation is far worse of a sentencing for them than anything else, than jail time. 2 Jamaican women. I think you guys might remember this case. I'll refresh your memory if you don't. Give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull up just a little visual. Of course, we had this reported on. And they were involved in stealing perfume from, I think it was La Perfumery. Which one of those stores? Anyway, Nikisha Bell, 44 years old. What the hell is a 44-year-old woman doing? Oh my God. Seriously. A mother of 5. You know, you think by that age with 5 children, you would have started to settle down. Nope. Out here stealing perfume of all things. You better go steal some damn diapers. No, sir. Anyway, she's out here stealing, mother 5, and Jonelle, I think it's Jonelle Crystalette Walker. Boy, these names. 31 years old, a mother of 2, were sentenced on March the 11th after pleading guilty to stealing from 3 stores, I think. Yeah. So they were stealing from Penha, Victoria's Secret, and Bath and Body Works. Oh my goodness. So they're gonna need some Victoria's Secrets now. All right. This is back in November. We got wind of it. Posted that. Remember, that was the same weekend that those guys were out there stealing people's cards and on a frolic of their own as well. So these 2 were out there, both women who worked as janitors. Oh my Jesus. On work permits, were handed 6-week suspended sentences and declared prohibited immigrants with orders to leave the Cayman Islands by Friday. So today they should have been back on the flight to Jamaica this morning. It was an early morning flight. Do we have any afternoon flights going to Jamaica today? So they had to get up early and get the heck out of here. So CCTV footage was played in court, captured the woman moving methodically from store to store, repeatedly placing high-value perfume bottles into the bottom of a stroller, in which Walker's 3 to 4 month infant was seated. Why does it say 3 to 4 months? Do we not know exactly how old the child was? I think we should probably just say young infant. But anyway, so yep, the little baby was being used to carry out these acts. And before calmly walking out of the store, store staff grew suspicious after noticing missing items and pursued the woman while the pair returned some of the bottles. Some stolen goods were later found in their possession. What a hot mess. Chief Magistrate Hernandez handed down a blistering rebuke from the bench, calling the women's actions despicable, and she told the women that they should be ashamed of themselves for using an infant to carry out their crime. The Chief Magistrate also made it clear that she would not consider the infant's presence in their sentencing as a mitigating factor. Quite the opposite. Mitigating? She says, I don't accept that you do dirty deeds and then turn around to use a child as an excuse to get out of it. She said, I don't buy that at all. Well, defense attorney did her best. She acknowledged the stroller had been used as a decoy, describing it as very poor judgment on Walker's part. The court heard that the woman had exploited crowded store conditions, using the baby and the busy shopping environment as a distraction as they moved swiftly between locations. Despite the harsh words, the Chief Justice opted to not impose the custodial sentence immediately. It's been suspended for 2 years, and the decision came with firm conditions that the women must report to Customs and Border Control the following morning, present airline tickets, and depart the Cayman Islands by Friday. Any return to the islands, the court warned, would trigger the activation of the suspended sentence. The welfare of the infant was also addressed during the proceedings, with the women being allowed time to make childcare arrangements. Walker's employer attended court in a... Y'all so friggin' stupid. I hope to God this wasn't no Caymanian doing this. Walker's employer attended court in a show of support and cared for the baby outside the courtroom during the hearing. What do y'all? Which fool? You see, I don't think this would have been a Caymanian. Sorry to say, but this is one of those newer Caymanians. Probably came from Jam. Sorry, Jam. Y'all know how y'all can support downright ridiculousness when you're ready. Because if this is a real Caymanian who was there supporting them, I mean, yeah, the poor little baby, I feel sorry for him or her or whatever. Don't even know. But you think that somebody get caught stealing? Poor Miss Stacy. A dog would have to eat her supper. I can go to court to support her when she's done wrong? Let me be clear. Under no circumstances would that be happening. Baby or no baby. Sorry. FAFO. Hot mess. El Rey said James Lagan wanted to show up, show off, and show out, and then run like a coward. He called the taxi after the mess. Watch him claim that he felt his life was in danger because the other man spoke to him. El Rey says, well, I hope that the fit driver collects at least $250,000. Why did someone pick him up? They should be charged. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if they knew what was going on or where he walked to be able to catch the taxi. Who knows? Pat says, lawyer up, fit driver. Is this imported riffraff a permit holder? Oh, God. Debbie, you don't know by now he got BK Mannion. Now you know how foolish we are. He's been here for how long? Girl, you don't know how this works. We gave him status long time ago. Yep. That's how he owns his own real estate company, because we already gave him status. Aliana says, oh boy, what a mess, my dear. Sometimes that's all you can say. Did they leave their children behind for our system to take care of? No, I suspect that the only child that was probably here was the young baby. And the only reason that that child was probably still here is because I think immigration allows young infants, I guess, while they're still perhaps like breastfeeding and stuff like that, they allow them to remain until, they're of a particular age. I don't know if that's like 6 months or don't ask me. I don't actually know all the details, but I do believe that they give them, when you have a baby, you have a certain amount of grace period, if you will, that you can have the baby here. I'm trying to find these women because, boy, they're bold and stupid all at the same time. I just am like, wow. Well, they're gone back now, messed up their future. Those poor children that no doubt relied on them to be able to, have a better chance at making some money, better livelihood, and all that kind of stuff. Now, all of that has been thrown out the window. So very, very sad indeed. All right. Well, there you go. At least that one is dealt with. And, sometimes you have to look at the situation and ascertain whether it is worth putting them in jail for a couple of weeks. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. They get a reduction, like they only have to serve 60% of their sentence. So if they got 6 weeks, like basically they're there, 3.5 weeks or whatever, that don't make no sense. That's using up resources and feeding them for no good reason. The best thing to do is just to get them the hell out of here. And sometimes you have to make that judgment call. Someone says, how easy would it be to get a new passport in Jamaica, as so many people from there have aliases? Could they just not get another one and come back? I don't think it's as easy as it used to be. Because, obviously we have heard rumors in the past about this type of behavior. I'll inquire from our agencies here to see if they can give me some details, but I'm not really too sure about that. No way. You're kidding me. Oh my God. Y'all want to hear something so funny about this James guy? I'm sure this woman must expert. Listen to me. This is like gold. This is social media gold right now. Look at this document from yesterday. Oh, let me go in the court. I haven't been on the judicial site in a hot minute. But look at this. Shock and surprisation. Apparently, his wife, Jillian, has filed for divorce. Oh my God. That is so funny. I mean, not for nothing, but really? Where's the court list? Public register. Here we go. So yeah, just yesterday, Jillian Lanier Lagan has filed her petition to divorce James Peter Lagan. Oh my God, you can't make this shit up. Oh my God, she don't want no part of this. Hold on. Oh my God. I am sitting here cracking up because they must have had issues in the relationship. I would assume she's not divorcing him just because of this, because that money makes a lot of these women stay. So no doubt they were having issues before, but this might have been the catalyst that that broke the camel's back. She was like, I am so sick and tired of this guy. Wow. No, sir. Mm-mm. Wow. I can't make this stuff up. Who the heck is Meshack Kevin Connolly? Huh. Uh-huh. Yep, it's a family petition, which we all know what that means, honey child. Oh my God. Do you think, I'm having to think about this, right? If I did something stupid like this, would Marlon be rushing to the courts to divorce me forthwith? Entirely possible. Oh, Aliana says, with 5 children and come came man to steal, what a shame. I'm assuming they probably are stealing perfume to resell it. I don't think they need all that perfume for themselves. So again, you know, being stupid with their thievery. Auntie, you heard anything about the Jamaican mechanic man that was allegedly involved in the case with the woman in the burning car being deported? I haven't heard that, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was, because there were offenses that CBC wanted to talk to him about. So he had a wife here, a Caymanian wife, as far as I know, but I think CBC wanted to speak with him about that. And it so happened that his name came up during the initial stages. And to be clear, the police have said that there is no suspected foul play once they completed their investigation. So he wasn't wanted in relation to that. But I think because his name came up and they started looking at him, they realized that there was other irregularities going on there in relation to his immigration status. I'll try and find out, but I would not be surprised if he has been deported. Because like I said, there were other things going on there. El Rey said should have been stealing Pampers and school supplies. At least that would make more sense for the benefit of the poor children. Barbara says if he was from Jamaica and or Black, everything would be handled differently, right down to finding him before the drugs were out of his system. My opinion only. Yeah, like police sending out a thing the day after, a few days later, talking foolishness. It's like I said, as soon as you saw that car, an Audi R8, you probably got 2 people in Cayman who own those cars. All the police, do they not have their database where they can look up by car type? What kind of police system do they have? They should have gone to his house within an hour of seeing that accident, because you can find that car real fast. Not to mention you got the friggin' license plate number. Why you need the public's help? Seriously? You got the plate number that's still in the car. Look him up. Go to his address immediately and do a blood test. You see, this is the bullshit I can't take with the police, you know. I try to support them where I can, but this kind of policing don't make no sense to me. How do you not get to him within an hour or less? That you got put out a press release talking about you need the bank's help finding him. My ass. Sure. They find who they want to find for real. Okay, let me just send this to Renee because this looks like an interesting story. All right, so yes, so what a hot mess. Yes, divorcing him. Oh, the Flanagans are getting divorced. Colm Flanagan, he's another lawyer. What is it with you lawyers? Wow. Y'all divorcing more than anybody else. Julia's divorcing him? I don't know Julia, but I do know he's a lawyer. Well, what mess. We got somebody else divorcing Norman Anthony Wilkins. Lord have mercy. Yes, I guess a day... Let me not even. Oh my God. Oh, geez, I'm peace. What a mess. Oh, you know, when you get on this court list, you get stuck, you know. You'd be like, oh, this one's suing this one. Who is Kirkpatrick Palmer trading as White Reen Car Rental? Oh, he's suing somebody. Oh, scandalous. Oh my goodness. Let me see who else is being sued. Yay. Lisa Ann Bodden, Roshan Rob McLaughlin. Oh, owing people money. Kenny Roger Whitaker versus Carrie Rosita. O-M to the motherfucking G. Carrie, your husband is divorcing you? Lyatell. Oh my God. I thought you were going to divorce him. Carrie, he must have pissed off. You post that video about him interrupting your live stream. What? The what? Somebody's suing St. Matthew's too? Lord have mercy. I've been missing some good stuff on the court list, man. Wow. Carrie, you would make that man divorce. Girl, please, I would have beat him to the punch long time. Oh, well, I guess he's done. Lovell Marriott suing the Water Authority again? She's suing somebody again? What the hell? What a woman love to sue. And no real grounds, you know. Jeez, peace. Somebody's suing Seaboard. Jeez, peace. Wow. Some Blake's getting divorced. Who is Kim Carmen Blake versus Ian Everton Blake? They getting a divorce. Wow. Another one, Belinda Hart divorcing Jonathan Murphy. Boy, lots of y'all divorcing each other. Ay. Namey Investment Limited. Oh, they have a originating application. Wow. Glendy Moore, D. Parchment being sued for money. Oh my God. Yes, sir. This is where it's at, I tell you. Who is Michael Lawrenson suing Floyd McConnell Moxham II? That are your cousin Johan? What mess? Oh my goodness. Yes, sir. Wow. Lord, I can't even. Well, this is where it's at. These are public records. Anybody can go look at them. Daniel Godfrey Dawkins versus Krishna Paula Hooker Lopez. He's divorcing her. What a mess. Some Evdeen, I think they have her name misspelled. It has to have an I in it somewhere. McBean Yates versus Christopher Isaac Morgan. I notice more and more that a lot of these people don't have the same name, although they're married. So I guess the women not even bothering to change their name because they're like, child, I would have to change it back real soon. So they can't even bother. What mess. Okay, then. Yes. Anyway, speaking of cases, I've got a really good one that is going to be coming up here soon. I'm hoping by Monday the story will be up. And we can actually talk about that one. That one is really, really important from, and I think, Lord, I think I better wait till the regular YouTube channel is back up because this one is such a critically important case for those of you who need to know from a labor perspective what you're entitled when it comes to severance pay. So, let me see when I don't know when YouTube is going to give us permission to come back online, but let me just check on that because this one's it's a big case. And it's kind of gone under radar. So I want to make sure that we cover it for the benefit of all of you. Stacy says, laughing out loud, no way, I don't want no perfume. Plus, I don't want my pictures up on CMR website unless it's for something really good, because you'd get posted with all those gym pictures, all your goody body pictures that you be in the gym. Those are the ones I'm going to use if you do anything bad, Miss Stacy. I'm going to say, look at Miss Stacy. She got time to be working on her abs, but she's out in these streets doing foolishness. I hope she know better. Mm-hmm. But would that affect the children? Because the mothers didn't affect the children. They didn't act to be born. Of course, it's gonna affect the children. It's gonna affect the children because now they got to go back home with no job, But this is why, if you don't think about, the appeal rejected. Oh Lord. That's some bitches over at Facebook. Let me see how long we're in Facebook jail for then. They said appeal rejected. Let's see here. If we, I gotta send this to my content creators. If you really want to think about your children, like if they're your priority, sometimes we would do stuff if not for children. Is that not right? Like, think of how many times somebody rolling up and you talking foolishness. You're like, Sandy, I just want to box them in the mouth. And I say, hold on here now, honey child. Don't do it. Because if you do it, then you're going to get yourself in trouble. Right? And if you get yourself in trouble, then what's going to happen to your kids? Who's going to mind your kids? Who's going to, a lot of times I'd be looking at people and I'd be like, man, if I could just give you one box upside your head. And then I think of my daughter. I'm like, she can't even go to sleep at night without me. Imagine if I was in jail for a couple months. That's not a good life. So jail is not something to, for anyone, quite frankly, to try to, get involved in, but even worse, when you have children. Like, you don't esteem to go to jail. Like, that's not a good thing. But when you have children, think about your kids first. Even if you would step out of line and do something absolutely stupid, right? Let me see. Don't do so because you're thinking, well, I got to act out. I'm going to pull all the stunts today. No. Think about, my God, my kids every night don't get to see me. In their cases, their kids don't get, it's just horrible. Not just to see them. Okay, so this expires June the 9th. What? June the 9th? You little son of a guns. So, wow. Y'all better find that backup channel, honey child. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Just sending a little notice here to our content creators. June the 9th, that's a really long time. Come on. Jeez. Wow, YouTube, don't play around when it comes to copyright stuff. They are way stricter, I must say, than even Facebook with copywriting. Child, they're ridiculous. Wonder how much she will collect. Fit victim may get squeezed out. You better hurry up. Oh my God, that's a good point. El Ray, you smart. Yeah, gotta keep my eyes on you. Sometimes you're smart. You supporting Trump makes you stupid at the same time, but you know, it just proves that you can have two things be both true. So you can be both smart and stupid at the same time. He's smart with certain things, not smart when it comes to Trump, honey child. Poor him. Honey child, y'all done know. Oh my God, that is so wild. That is crazy. Okay, hold on a second. I'm gonna have to notify that Honda Fit driver because he may not even know this. He's sitting there lollygagging. Get onto a lawyer ASAP. Okay. Miss Sue, thank you, ma'am. Tonight's 10 p.m. show is gonna be lit. Oh God. She's a joker. Who? You're back? No, we're back. We're on the backup YouTube channel. We're not on the regular channel, I don't think. Are we in the regular channel? Nope, not according to YouTube. They say we're in jail until... So we always have a backup channel for these purposes. And that's why you got to make sure you follow the backup channel. They look very similar, except the backup one has the gold CMR pendant coin as her logo. So yeah. And the name, in fact, let me give you guys the name right now. Because if you don't follow this channel, I need you to follow this one. Because this is the backup channel. So it might have been popping up in your feed, but follow that channel so that you get the notifications. El Ray says, girl, you a donkey. I might be, but you know I'm right about you. Smart with some things and dumb with Trump. Morning, Siobhan. How you doing? Haven't seen you in a while. No, it's not Facebook jail. It's YouTube jail. Yes, sir. All right, folks, go ahead and follow that channel so that you can make sure you guys are on it. Please order some of this and some long drinking straws. Order this from where? We can't find that in Cayman, Miss Stacy? Why am I ordering that? On Amazon? I think you can find this in Cayman. Check this out, Miss Sandra. 21-year-old man goes viral after he refuses to work because he was born without his consent. Stupidity. He would have to starve then if he refused to work. Lord have mercy. So Wes, I figure, what is this? Good morning, Sandra. I give a guy to install QuickBooks over a month ago, and up until now, I haven't have it ready. So I am unable to give you a proper invoice. So Wes, I figure I will charge you $75 per visit, if not too much. Oh, you. So you can't send me an invoice. I will charge you $75 per visit because it's not much to do. But you still, I've been needing my receipts, honey child. So if you need to get a receipt book, then in the interim, go get a receipt book because I need to be able to. I still need to know what I'm paying. I mean, I don't know what I'm like when you're coming and stuff like that. Can't follow new backup channel as I've forgotten my password again. Lord have mercy. I can't help you with that. This one is hot. It's over a comment made about the fish served in a restaurant. Fish served in a restaurant? Oh, geez, on peace. Okay, I'll send it to Renee. She'll have some excitement around this one. Lord Jesus, y'all can sue over some damn foolishness. Oh my God, hot mess. No, sir. So his wife, Jillian, is the daughter of Joe Imperato. She was married and had an affair with James Lagan, married James, and he then had an affair with someone else. So she's now divorcing James. What a story. I love it. I absolutely love it. The lifestyle of the rich and famous, no different than the rest of us. Girl, they out here frolicking just like everybody else. So she was cheating. She's married before, Jim Prater's daughter. Okay, Jillian, that's her name. She was married before to someone else. Divorced that person. Let me understand what you're telling me. Had an affair with James. Okay, I'm sure that ended that marriage. She marries James, and then he has an affair on her. Well, you know what, Cayman and Caribbean people can say, you lose them how you get them. You can't get somebody through cheating and think that they're a loyal person. That's like defies common sense. No, sir. Oh my God. Wow. Mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Unbelievable. Well, yes, sir. I tell you, can't make this stuff up. Okay. Any chance we can visit at 11? Snaps. Okay, that means I gotta go right now then. All right, that's somebody who's supposed to meet me at 12:30. They want to move it up. Not seeing the live link on YouTube. It's on Instagram, but I prefer YouTube because if I get busy, follow the channel. That means you're not following the channel. Hello. Follow the WhatsApp channel and the YouTube channel as well, the new YouTube channel. Both. We've had this YouTube channel for a couple of years, actually, but we only use it for backup purposes. All right. I got to go if this person wants to meet me at 10. Business first. And this is important business. So Ms. Ann says maybe she's protecting the family wealth. Bogus divorce? No, apparently she caught him cheating. I wonder who he was cheating with. Maybe he was coming back from a cheating escapade and having a few glasses of wine. And that's why, you know, yeah. I mean, we could build a whole soap opera out of this. Greg says Excel can be used until QuickBooks gets sorted. That's true. And there are other invoicing apps out there too that you can just use online. But you see, what I think happens is a lot of these guys, they're in the business, but they have no concept of accounting, admin. Like there has to be a business that has to support some of these other small businesses because they just don't know how to do it. And the problem with that is sometimes because you don't know how to prepare quotes properly, payment invoices, receipts, all that kind of stuff, because you don't do any of that, there are times when certain people will not do business with you because they need a proper, like me, I need to keep track of stuff myself. Because when CNB comes and be like, okay, you know, you want some more money from us? We need to do audited financial. We need your accountant to provide financials and whatever. He needs all these receipts and all this stuff logged. And so, yeah, it can be challenging. What a mess. Anyway, what a day. Friday the 13th. Please be safe out there on the roadways. It doesn't have to be Friday the 13th for y'all to have an accident. Clearly, y'all be out here messing around these streets doing the most. So I'm going to have to ask you to slow down. Don't be a James Logan and drink and drive. Okay? Instead, take your time on the roadways. No drinking and driving, please. No snorting cocaine and driving. I mean, I'd recommend that you not snort cocaine regardless of whether you're driving, but I'm just saying, definitely don't do it while you're drinking and driving. All right. Goody. That's all she wrote. I wish you guys an amazing, fruitful, and wonderful weekend. Again, big shout out to the minister for coming on to the program today. We had a very, very engaging show, and really, really appreciate it. We learned a lot today, I think, in terms of what the Ministry of Education and Training is up to. All right. They be up to all kind of swapping, says Miss Suit. Child, I've heard the stories. See you guys on Monday morning. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.